Hey everyone, it's Libby from maighstirtarot. I'd like to acknowledge the Worimi First Nations people and huge welcome to you, your guides, my guides in the universal energies. If you're new, that's Worimi, W-O-R-I-M-I. It is the First Nations lands on which I live, and one of my guides, Navin, is a Worimi First Nations spiritual healer and a spiritual healer and tribal leader. Now, I'm going to have a look in this particular reading. I'm using my Trip and Wait tarot, not Trump. I'm going to have a look at Ben Carson. Very interesting character. So there's touting going around at the moment that Trump is going to tip Ben Carson for his vice president, basically because Carson is so bland that he won't overshadow Trump. I'm just going to put it out there. If you can hear something in the background, I've got my dishwasher going. If you can, just going to put it out there when I was just preparing for this reading and having a think and writing my notes. And if I'm looking this way, this is where my notes are. Trump actually can't stand the guy, and every time he shakes hands with Carson or spends time with Carson, he's there with the sanitizer, and it's just a really, really interesting arrangement between those two. Trump has called Ben Carson pathological and a child molester, whereas Carson's turned around and called Trump as cerebral. Oh, it's just you can't make this stuff up. So I'm just having a look into Carson's background to see why, as one would think, being a neurosurgeon, he's famous for separating the conjoined twins in the head surgery for that. He's an intelligent man. He's a black man. Why is he backing someone like Trump? Now, when I'm looking into his history, his father was a Baptist minister who worked in the automotive industry, but had been a US Army veteran prior to that. His parents met and married when his mother was 13 and his father was 28 in rural Tennessee. Is that legal? 13? Anyhow, his older brother was born when his mother turned 20. Ben Carson was born when his mother was 21. They then subsequently found out that his father was already married and had a second family, so he was a bigamist. So therefore, Carson's parents separated, and he went with his single mother. And this occurred when he was about the age of 8. So we're looking at the late 1950s here. So you're talking about a woman of colour in Detroit, single mother with 2 children, not even at the age of 30. Okay, interesting. Oh, and very interesting that the father was a Baptist minister with the 2 families. Please. Anyhow, so she became a single mother. She did exceptionally well. She did the best she could. Carson went to public school, was quite gifted, applied and got a scholarship to Yale and went to Yale. But what I'm finding really interesting is the suburb that he lived in while they were in Detroit, with the single mother, was a predominantly white suburb. He went to a predominantly white public school. He went to Yale, which I can imagine in those days was predominantly white. And I really got the feeling that, like Clarence Thomas, Ben Carson has a desperation to be considered white, if that makes sense. A desperation to feel like he belongs to a group. And he wants that group to be white. It's just, it feels very bizarre. So let's have a look. I just want to have a look at the energies behind Ben Carson, what makes Ben Carson tick, and then we'll have a look to see whether he's going to be the nominee. I wonder if he's got any mirrors in his house or had any mirrors in his house growing up. Because he would have seen his outward view would have been completely different to how perhaps others saw him. Let's have a look. What makes Ben Carson tick? What's the energies behind the scenes for Ben Carson? Let's have a look. Come on down. Sorry about that, 5 minutes of waffle before we get started. Disappointment. Interesting as a signifier card. Disappointment in what life has offered him. Wow. Considering, he's done pretty damn well for himself, but it feels like, these multi-billionaires that are desperate to have another billion, it's never quite enough. I'm feeling that with Ben Carson. No matter what he was offered, what he achieved, it was never quite enough. Okay. Challenged by, now this is the formulating a plan, looking for more, which ship am I going to bring in type scenario. This is him always seeking for more, which goes with that. It's never enough. Okay, always seeking for more. The energies behind the scenes. We've got the Moon card, secrets coming out of the swamp. We've got okay, thank you. I'm going to defer to Lena Rodriguez on this with calling it as the mongrel dog howling at the moon. Now, I'm not saying that Ben Carson is a mongrel, but it's the misfit howling at the moon. And we've got here in chaoticness. He's trying to, you've got the black Sphinx here and the white Sphinx here, the two horses, and he's trying to get them to pull together. He's trying to get his blackness and his wannabe whiteness to pull together. And it's just forming a chaotic sense to him. It's almost like a desperation. Okay, coming out of this reading, financially well off. I mean, he's got, retired neurosurgeon, but it's also the financially well off, but in the gilded cage. And I'm always drawn to the fact in this particular card, the intuition is hooded. So it's not listening to his spiritual side. Dark money behind the scenes working together. What am I getting here? I'm really getting that he's this dude, but he's wanting to be one of those dudes, if that makes sense. Okay, what makes Ben Carson tick? Walking away from what emotionally does not serve him, and a desperation to find balance, pouring from cup to cup to cup to cup to cup, trying to find balance in the face of this energy. Okay. He needs to, really, in all honesty, he needs to take the blindfold off and make a decision about his path forward. He's going to find himself entrapped by the messaging, the rah-rah-rah, standing beside the Trumpers of the world. Look at me, rah-rah, I'm part of the boys' club, etc., etc. But in the background, you've got all these figures walking away, turning away. We've got his naivety in what's on offer here. And information coming forward in regards to, I'm not seeing this isn't money. He doesn't need money. He's okay, thank you. He's been offered nurturing, security, stability, which is another meaning for Pentacles. He's been offered stability and security. Okay. So what makes Ben Carson tick? It's all that he's gained in life has just never been enough. He's seeking more. He's always seeking more. He's trying to feel within himself from the exterior instead of the interior. The karma behind the moon, the misfit howling at the moon, trying to reconcile two sides of him. And what's coming out of this? He's being used. He's being used. He's financially well off, but he's being used. Okay, let's have a look to see whether he will be the vice president. Interesting, this walking away from his heritage I'm getting here. Walking away from all that had been offered to him. Now, he was back in his university days a Democrat. He was anti-Vietnam War. He was quite a liberal thinker in his younger years. So it's this desire to belong to a group. I think because when he was growing up, what I'm really feeling is when he was growing up, because he grew up in a predominantly white area, I'm getting the feeling that he didn't belong because he was of colour, but for the African Americans, he didn't belong because he was in with the white group, if that makes sense. So he sort of didn't belong anywhere. So it was a desperation to be accepted and to be part of something, which is what most MAGAs are desiring. If you have a think about it, they're not so much supportive of Trump, but desirous of something that is bigger than themselves to make them feel powerful. So let's have a look. Is Ben Carson, 72, is Trump going to choose Ben Carson as his vice president? Is Trump going to choose Ben Carson as vice president? Remembering that Trump wants someone as bland as Pence, who's not going to overshadow him, which rules out the Lakes and the Haleys and the Stefanics and the anybody else that will show him up. But let's have a look. Come on down. Is Trump going to pick Ben Carson for VP? Nine of wands here. Drawing a boundary, having his back up against the wall. Battered, bruised, on his own though. I think Trump's going to spin this out as long as possible. So, haven't got a yes yet. I think Trump's going to literally find himself with his back up against the wall with nowhere to go. And we have here then the Wheel of Fortune, karma, fate, destiny. That's the challenge. So is Trump it's a yes card. Is Trump going to use Carson? Pick Carson as his VP. I'm wondering whether Trump's going to feel he doesn't have a choice. So let's see where this goes. Foundation, Jack Smith, Alex Whiting, prosecutors. Interesting card to come as the foundation. In the past, this sort of truth coming for Trump. Now, for those that are new, if you go back and look at my really, really old readings on Trump's health from about a year ago, I saw that he's not going to make the election. He'll be the nominee, but not make the election due to a vascular incident. Let me just put it that way. That's going to come about due to the two really personal cases, which is the New York fraud case and the E. Jean Carroll case, that are basically branding him as a lying, thieving, traitorous, penniless rapist, basically. That really hits to the core of his ego. But okay, let's see where this goes. Interesting that truth cards, the swords cards are here. For Ben Carson, be careful what you wish for. I know many readers have that as the wish fulfillment and the smug merchant, etc. For me, it's always be careful what you wish for, because in the immediate future, tower moment. Externally, is Trump going to pick Ben Carson? The moon, secrets coming to the surface and being exposed. Right next to Jack Smith here. Going to have to defend himself. I'm not getting a significant yes or no yet. Big stick moment in the hopes and fears. Really big truth coming out, big information coming out. He may intend it. This is plan. Plan hasn't come to fruition. It is simply still in the plan stage. Page of Pentacles. The offer of the opportunity may be made, so the offer may be made. It may be even accepted with that Queen of Pentacles. This is about stability, security, but the burden is going to be too great. Okay, I am going to have a quick look and see whether Ben Carson is actually going to knock him back. Let's have a look. Hey guys, can I ask a question? Is Trump going to offer Ben Carson the vice presidency? And that's a yes. Straight into a yes. I should have the screen high so you can see it's not me waggling my finger away. Is Ben Carson going to refuse the vice president's position? No. Okay. Is Ben Carson going to be formally identified, formally announced as vice president, Trump's VP pick? Is Ben Carson going to be formally, officially announced as Trump's VP pick? And that's a no. Okay. Is Trump going to go, is Trump just hanging Carson on like by a bit of string? Yep, straight into it, yep. So he's playing Carson along. Is Trump, I'm just going to ask one final question, is Trump going to announce his VP pick before he has his vascular incident? And that's a no. Okay. I'm going to leave it as that. I don't know whether we need any more. He's stringing Carson along. He's made him the offer. Hasn't been formalised. Poof. We'll see how it goes. Love to you all. Oh, and speaking of which, down the gurgler with the dishwasher. Catch you later. Bye-bye.